Hi, this is Huili Wang. Welcome to Cloud Access Security Broker CASB Fundamentals. In the previous videos, we had deep dived into CASB solution. In this video, let's take a step back and to see what should be considered when we want to evaluate CASB solution. We will be going over a number of key factors to consider in choosing and evaluating CASB solutions. CASB has become commercially available since around 2011. There have been a good number of vendors there, and each have their own advantages and also weaknesses and to improve. So some vendor might be strong at data loss protection, some has a competitive edge at security posture management, and even some vendors are not offering full cloud solutions, and some still have their engine running on-prem. But overall, to choose between the vendors, here are the aspects to consider when to evaluate the offered solutions offerings. Integration, capability, compatibility, scalability, performance, and compliance. We'll be going through them in details. Integration and compatibility is the #1 challenge whenever it comes to enterprise solution implementation. There's never a plug-and-play solution in place all the time. The integration, especially upgrade on not built from scratch, either upgrade from existing one or migrate from one platform to another. It is always a painful journey. So get prepared for that. And along with that, there will be a integration challenge with your existing technologies. For example, policies rethink how you're going to reuse the existing whole libraries of policies and rules in your on-prem enforcement and move it over to CASB. And there will be questions of cross-vendor support, that maybe your on-premise enforcement use the offerings from one vendor, security vendor, and now you're moving to cloud to leverage the, say, for example, the logs, the different format of logs, and that's something to be considered. And again, moving to cloud, geographically, the security enforcement might not be located in the place where you want, so there will be compliance concern because some of the countries have restrictions in the geographic location where that data can be processed. So you have to factor that in the consideration, and then there will be cloud providers' involvement needed perhaps. So most of CASB solutions offer the support for mainstream cloud services like Microsoft Office 365. But if you happen to use a less popular cloud service, and maybe that cloud provider, when developed the service, did not have enough API repository available for you, so to apply CASB using API mode, you might ask the service provider to come up with the development of a bunch of new APIs, and it takes time to wait for the publish of those APIs. So those are the integration and compatibility concerns when implementing CASB solution. In addition to integration and compatibility, scalability is certainly another critical factor to think. Your business will certainly grow. So grow horizontally, then there will come to the question to expand the coverage of the CASB end user coverage and devices coverage, and you might require extra licenses there. And as business grows and as technology grows, probably you might vertically scale up, maybe adding another technology stack, layer in the technology stack. And there's also a concern of vendor lock-in. You subscribe to one service provider from of CASB, but would that end up that you are trained to that service provider, and is it possible to lift up the solution and shift over to another CASB vendor, that's a big question, that'll be a big concern. You don't want to really lock down with only one vendor. That would put you at a less strong position in negotiation on the terms and when you want to renew the subscription. And of course, performance is a factor that can never be ignored. In fact, if there is a hit in performance, end users and customers will load complaint, and that would be an immediate impact in business performance. So that's a very important factor here. And take note that the performance is not something committed by the cloud service provider. Surely there is a SLA, service level agreement, signed with the service provider, but that's a commitment of availability, not performance. That is usually the service provider would commit an availability of up to, well, nearly close to 100%, and they have a mechanism of failover. They have a number of availability zones to back up one another. And in terms of CASB, what's really a big concern is in the real-time responses, because our traffic redirection will lead to some latency in the response, along with the enforcement control that may require scanning engine, encryption engine. The running of the engine would take some time, take up some of the resources. If you're using API mode, then the CASB API events and activities can take up some resources there. So there is a technology to have API runtime of business workload, so that the execution of CASB control algorithms will be running off the load as from your business load execution. Last but not least, the compliance requirement. It is always recommended to check with the CASB vendors before getting into the detailed discussion on technical details, whether or not they support the regulations that's required in your business. Because often there's an extra work required to ensure that a specification of an industry is applied. We have just discussed what should be included in the consideration when we want to make the decision. How are we supposed to choose and evaluate the different offerings from vendors? And in the next video, we're going to look ahead into the future of CASB. Thank you, and see you next time.